The war between Russia and Ukraine has now entered its third year. Senator Jack Reed, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, recently spent some time in Ukraine, along with other members of Congress, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, where they met with the Ukrainian president. And Reed also delivered a speech, including these remarks.
The United States today, and now it is in the hands of Speaker Johnson, is asked to send resources. If we do not do that, we will soon be asked to send young Americans.
This afternoon via Zoom, I asked the senator about those remarks and more in his first interview since returning from Ukraine. Take a listen.
Are you suggesting that if the House doesn't approve this aid package to Ukraine, that the U.S. will be asked to send troops to fight in this war?
Well, what is highly likely based on Putin's statements and his behavior is that he will not stop at the Ukraine. He will try to reclaim any lands that he thinks were part of the greater Russia. That could include parts of Poland. That could include definitely parts of the Baltic states. They are members of NATO. And under NATO, if one nation is attacked under Article 5, it's an attack against all nations. That means we would be in the fight. So it's very clear to me that if we have the opportunity to stop the Russians now by supplying the Ukrainians, that's a far better option than trying to stop them with American troops.
So you're not saying that we would send U.S. troops to fight in Ukraine. You're saying if this escalates beyond that and we have to come to the aid of our NATO allies.
That's exactly right. Very little, no real probability that American forces will fight in Ukraine. We're providing technical assistance, we're providing resources, but not military personnel. But under NATO Article 5, if in fact one of the NATO countries is attacked, as I said, as it says, an attack against one is attack against all. I should remind people the only time that Article 5 was invoked was when on 9/11 terrorists attacked the United States. Every NATO nation stood up to support us in our counter-offensive against al-Qaeda.
So as I mentioned, you're fresh off your return from that trip to Ukraine and your meeting with the Ukrainian president. What was your main takeaway from your conversations with him?
Well, the main takeaway is they need these resources immediately. They are fighting courageously. They're seeing, though, that the overall manpower strength of Russia and the access by the Russians to virtually unlimited artillery and indirect fire is really putting pressure on them. They're still fighting valiantly, but they can't match round for round or man for man. So they need these resources now. They will not stop fighting, but their possibility of a decisive victory in the future diminished unless we support them today.
So you were in Ukraine just over a year ago, I believe in January of 2023. How have things changed in the past year plus?
Well, in 2023, the Ukrainians had staged a remarkable response to the Russian invasion. They had basically pushed out the troops that had attacked Kyiv. They are in the process of recovering 50% of the territories the Russians initially took. They were taking other steps, but they had the momentum. What's happened in the interim is that the Russians have dug themselves in almost like World War I. Bunkers, minefields, protective fires, and the Ukrainians attempted last year to mount an offensive to take back more territory. That offensive was not as successful as they hoped for and we hoped for. So now the situation has become one of attrition warfare, and there Russians have an advantage. More men and soldiers. They have fixed positions. They have minefields. They have indirect fire. And it doesn't require the same skill to defend a bunker position as it does to conduct an offensive operation. So this is a year in which the front is stabilizing, and Ukrainians have to prepare themselves, probably not this year, but in the following years, to go once again on the offensive and make significant gains against the Russians.
Now,